I'm with Sandy Shoshani, the National Director of Be'ad Chaim. Now, Sandy, what is Be'ad Chaim?
Be'ad Chaim simply means in Hebrew pro-life. It's a national organization for the protection of the mother and the child, established in 1988 in Israel.
Do you get women coming here who are in a desperate situation?
Desperate, yeah. If you're pregnant and you don't want to be pregnant, that's desperate. We call it crisis pregnancy. The women usually find us on Google. They're usually clicking in something like unwanted pregnancy or abortion or terminate your pregnancy. And they call our hotline, and then they usually, I'll tell you what they say, Paul. They say, I want an abortion. I have to have an abortion. They're always saying, I have to have an abortion. They feel like they're pressed and pushed. You never hear somebody say, well, I'm considering what I should do about my pregnancy. No, they say, I have to have an abortion. Why? Because their mother, their boyfriend, their job, their bank account, and they feel pressed to do that. So we are here to help them.
Yeah, that was my next question. When a woman comes to you, do they feel like abortion is the only option?
Usually they haven't considered anything else. So when they get our hotline counselor is virtual. Her goal is to calm them down, and actually that's exactly what she does say, would you please consider something else? Would you take the time to think about your other options? Just let me talk to you. She doesn't try to persuade them. She doesn't tell them what to do. Her goal is to say, take the time, take a deep breath, don't go so quickly. Think about what you're doing, and would you be willing to meet your local counselor? The local counselor's job is then meet with them personally and then talk to them about how we can help. We can actually offer practical and emotional help.
Is it from all walks of life that people come, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Orthodox?
Yeah, definitely. Everybody. As a matter of fact, today I was hearing a fantastic story about a Sudanese woman who had been brought here many years ago with her stepfather. And she became an Israeli citizen, served in the Israeli army. But she had a drinking problem, and we helped her with her second baby. But because we didn't realize she was an alcoholic at first, and she was very disoriented, angry, confused, lying. She was drunk, and I just thank God for this story. We actually referred her to a local rehab center for alcoholics, and she has now totally turned around her life. She's left her drinking, stopped drinking, come to faith, walking with joy instead of anger, no more cursing, she's blessing. It's a remarkable story of success in a Sudanese woman.
Now you do a Bible study for those who've had an abortion. What's that for?
Well, abortion has two victims, the baby and mother. Of course, the baby loses his life, but the mother often has deep regret, sadness. And, if somebody's listening to this broadcast and saying, I'm not regretting my abortion, that may be true. Not everybody regrets. Not everybody suffers. But at least 1/3 of the women who've had an abortion are going to have serious consequences, whether it's depression, suicidal thoughts, or difficulty becoming pregnant again. 1/3 of the women. And if you're listening and you're thinking, what is 1/3? Listen, if you were going to have heart surgery and they said 1/3 of the people, the heart surgery is not going to succeed and not going to bring you good results, you probably wouldn't do it, because that's a lot, 1 out of 3. If I say after an abortion, 1/3, 1 out of 3 women is going to suffer deeply, that's pretty serious. And so what does that mean? Why do we do the Bible study? If she's had an abortion and she's feeling, usually what it is you don't want to talk about it. You feel ashamed. Most of the women in our Bible studies have come to faith at some point. And a lot of times they say, it's all over. Jesus forgave me. But they still hold on to the unforgiveness of themselves, the unforgiveness of their partner, their unforgiveness toward their mother or the doctors or whoever pushed them into the abortion, and they feel regret. And usually they feel second class and shame. They feel like, if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't accept me. So the reason we do the Bible study is to help them to find out, first of all, who is God? He is the God who loves, who cares, who forgives. And then to forgive others, to forgive herself, to be able to learn to let go of the regret, to be able to have closure with the loss of the child and the grief. There's a lot of reasons we do the Bible study. It's long. It's 8 weeks on purpose, usually 10 weeks even, because we want to give her the time to really be able to absorb the materials, to study the Word, and let the Holy Spirit work in her heart.
Now, you just recently had a tree planting event in Latroon. Tell us a bit about that.
The Gardens of Life is a special place where trees are planted in memory and in honor of babies who were never born, who were never held. And as I said, women who've had an abortion regret, typically, and they've never done anything for their baby. They actually never talk about the abortion because they're ashamed, and it hurts them too much typically. So women who've had miscarriages, usually what somebody says is, don't worry, you'll have another one. But that doesn't take away the sting or the pain. And we felt that the gardens need to be established. In 2010, we established the gardens together with the monks in Latrun as a place where babies can be mourned, grieved, and men can find closure. I'm not saying that the tree is a magical potion. What I'm saying is when you do something as a memorial for the child, there's a kind of a feeling that you have remembered and honored. And actually, there was a woman there last week when we did that planting ceremony who'd had 2 abortions. She's never had a child. And she said something very beautiful to me. She doesn't know the Lord yet. And she said to me, when my second baby died, because she did the abortion in mid-pregnancy, maybe 20-something weeks, because the doctors told her she'd have a handicapped child, and she felt she had to abort. The doctors told her, you have to abort. So she told me when that baby died, they took the baby, and I don't even know where it was buried. I've never been able to go to a grave site, and I've never been able to really properly honor or grieve this child, only in my private heart. So when I planted the tree, I felt like I finally did something to honor the baby. It was beautiful, very beautiful. It brought her great healing.
Is abortion big in Israel?
Unfortunately, because we have national health insurance, our government pays for free abortions for women who are eligible. And to be eligible, all you need to do is say that you're unwed. 55% of abortions are unwed women, 45% are married couples, which is shocking. Yeah, but the government's paying for the abortions, and if you're married and you're saying that your marriage is unstable, or you're saying that you are suffering depression or stress, you can also have a free abortion. Or if there's anything wrong with the baby, perhaps any kind of suspected problem with the baby. So abortion is very common. The government paid for last year more than 18,000 abortions. It's also estimated that there are that many private abortions, but of course, since they're unregulated, there are no numbers. So we're guessing that there are between, I would say, probably about 40,000 abortions a year in Israel. Now, just because we're a small country, I just want to put that in perspective. Last year, there were about 175,000 live births. So if there were 40,000 abortions, that is a huge percent of the pregnancies in Israel last year.
And you've just celebrated 30 years. Have you seen God's hand move over the last 30 years?
It is absolutely thrilling to talk about what God has done in Be'ad Chaim in 30 years. I wasn't involved. In 1988, when Be'ad Chaim began, through a bunch of dedicated Christians and Messianic Jews together who found out the statistics of abortion in Israel. At that time, it was horrific. I'll tell you something, in the 1940s, abortion was so bad in Israel, there was no birth control, and people were aborting instead of keeping their children. And the prime minister-to-be, this was pre-Israel, it was Palestine at that point. At that point, the prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, he said, if our mothers had aborted at the same rate as our daughters, we wouldn't be able to build a state. It was so bad. And in 1988, as I said, we began Be'ad Chaim, not me, but others, to bring public awareness, to do, as in many countries in those years, street outreach, baby models on the streets, bring the congregations to a place where they were praying. In 2005, I was hired to do street outreach and education. And I was told that it's very difficult to save babies, if I can add this at this point. So in 2005, when I began, they were saving several babies a year because, as I said, it was very difficult to save the babies. The street outreach would reach a number of people, but not the thousands that we wanted to reach. And we began a program in 2006 called Operation Moses, which provides everything that a mother needs for a full year, meaning right before birth, the store, we order online to save money. We order for her the bed, the stroller, the bathtub, bed sheets, and then every month she receives coupons to be able to purchase her diapers and her formula for a year. This program, since 2006, the first year we saved 14, the next year 40 babies. Since 2006, we've been able to save more than 2,200 babies. So talk about the growth that God has done in Be'ad Chaim. And our counseling staff, when I began in 2005, was 4 counselors. We've moved up now. Our staff and counselors is about 25 people, including volunteers and staff. God has really blessed our work. And yesterday, as I was giving great thanks to God for all he's done, I also considered not only the baby's life saved, but the mother's life saved. I can easily think of many women who have come to know God's love as a result of giving birth and this ministry. God has really used us to touch and save and heal babies and moms. So it's been an amazing. I was just thinking yesterday, we say an expression, it's been an amazing ride. I mean, I've been here for about 13 years now, and I have seen God do more than abundant miracles, healing broken hearts after abortions, healing women who thought that they had to be in prostitution and brought them out into light, making them modest, lovely mothers, bringing people who were just brokenhearted to know his love. It's just amazing things God has done.
Do you have people coming back to you years later with wonderful, wonderful stories?
I really do, and that's one of the reasons I was thinking about why it's been so great. Because recently, a lot of times we're on television, and recently there was one of our counselors happened to be filmed in her office, and there was a picture of a little baby on the wall behind her. And a mom and a 7-year-old, a first grader, were watching the news that night. And the first grader looked at her mom and she said, "Mommy, why is that my picture on the wall there when I was a little baby?" And the mom told her, "Those people helped us tremendously. They gave me housing. They gave me all the stuff I needed for you when you were a baby because I didn't have enough money to be able to take good care of you. And those people helped us." And so the mom called me the next day and she said, "Sandy, how are you doing? I had to call and tell you how great we're doing and that my daughter and I both thank you so much." She's now with a loving partner, the child's father. They're having their second child together. And they're doing super well. Isn't that great? And the little girl, she said, got a document saying that she was an outstanding first grader. You know, isn't that wonderful certificate saying she was a great student? And recently I saw another mom here who just had a newborn. And I looked her in the eyes because she said, "How are you, Sandy?" I looked her in the eyes and I said, "Oh my gosh, it's you." You know, I'm not allowed to say names, but I'll just call her Miriam. It doesn't matter. I looked at her and I said, "Miriam, it's you." And she said, "You didn't recognize because I look old?" I said, "No, because you look mature." She said, "You mean I look old?" I said, "No, you look like a beautiful mother." And I said, "How are you?" And she said, "Yeah, you know, this woman used to work as a strip dancer in a nightclub. We helped her 8 years ago with her first daughter. She'd had then 7 abortions. And she told me, "Don't let me abort this one. Please persuade me." So I showed her a film called A Silent Scream. And I told her, "We're going to give you everything you need for a year. Please don't abort this baby." And I spoke to her many times at night. And that day when I first met her, I said to her, "Your life is worth much more than being sold to guys." And she said, "No, you don't understand. I make lots of money. You don't get it. I'm using them. They're not using me." But a few months later, she phoned me late at night at home. And she said, "You know what? You're right. I'm valuable." And so when I saw her recently, it was just like 2 weeks ago, I saw her looking like she was modest, she was quiet, she was lovely. Everything about her had changed. And I said, "You just look so beautiful." And she said, "Yeah, my life has entirely changed. I'm with a good partner and I'm taking care of my 2 girls and her daughter's now in 2nd grade. What a gift. What a gift to know that we've been able to change lives. Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do it? I don't have a choice. In 2005, when I was interviewed for the job, I told them I don't want this job. There's a lot of things bad in the world. And I'm going to say this to anybody listening. I'm guessing that a lot of you are against abortion, but don't want to do anything about it. Because it's not nice to talk about it. It's much easier to just pat somebody on the shoulder and say, "God loves you." I didn't want to talk about abortion. But after my interview, I was sent home with a pile of books and a pile of videos at that time. And I read them, and the chairman of the board told me, "Come back in a month and tell us what God has told you." And I came back a month later, and the Holy Spirit had spoken to me from Proverbs chapter 24, verses 11 and 12. It says, Proverbs 24, 11 and 12, it says, "Rescue those being led to slaughter. Do not say you did not know, because God considers your heart, and he will render to each one according to what he has done." And I saw a picture of myself like an ostrich with my head in the sand. And the Lord said to me, "You can do something or not. I will stop abortion. I will save babies. The question is, will you be involved? Will you do something about this?" And it reminds me of what Mordecai said to Esther in the book of Esther. He said, you can do something to save the Jewish people or not, but God will save them. The question is, will you become involved to save lives? And I'm telling you, Paul, there has been nothing more amazing than being able to touch the lives of the broken and desperate and give them new hope and practical help and healing for their lives.
What's your prayer for the lady today who's struggling and doesn't know what to do?
Oh, my prayer for her is that she'll find the address for help. Somebody who's going to care about her and help her, giving her hope and friendship and love and the courage to go on with this pregnancy. Because I'll tell you why I say that. Because I've seen many times moms come in here and say, I can't believe I considered abortion. Because your problems are temporary. But the baby is permanent. Those problems are going to go away. They're not forever. Maybe your finances are temporary, the problem. Maybe the boyfriend leaving, okay, he's going to leave. But God is going to provide your help. You know, when we're in crisis, we can't really believe that we're going to be able to manage. But I'll tell you the truth, and I know this with all my heart. I've seen women with handicapped children. I've seen women in deep crisis. God is a present help in times of need, which means if you're in need now and think, I can't do it, God doesn't care, maybe at this moment you're not in the deepest need, but the minute you need him, he will be there for you and help you. I have no question. And my prayer is trust that when you choose life, God will bless you. Trust it, because I've seen it thousands of times.
Okay, Sandy, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I just bless anybody who's listening. If you are desperate, God is there for you and he cares for your needs.